Gavin Newsom is now calling his city's homeless encampments unacceptable, which is odd since he's the guy who, made them acceptable, turning sidewalks into red carpet events for drug addicts, thieves, and unemployed CNN anchors. On Monday, he urged cities to ban the camps from sidewalks, parks, and other public areas. So after years of denying the problem, he's now pretending to fix it, which is like putting on a condom as you're leaving a horse.
Watch this one guy, was it Jesse Waters or something on Fox News? What he's been saying about Paul Pelosi the last 5-6 months? Mocking him consistently? Don't tell me that's not anything.
Gavin Newsom completely collapsed on live television, exposed and rattled after Greg Gutfeld descended like a raging wildfire tearing through dry California hills. Relentless, ferocious, and surgically precise, Greg dismantled his record piece by piece, incinerated his bloated ego, and even dragged his beloved hair gel into the smoking wreckage during one utterly unforgettable takedown that left audiences completely breathless. This was no friendly jab. This was total merciless demolition. Raw, deeply personal, and brutally real. Newsom's meltdown struck like an earthquake, collapsing the carefully engineered image he'd spent years polishing, crumbling live before millions of stunned eyes. Viewers sat frozen, glued helplessly to their screens because moments this seismic and defining never fade from memory.
Now look at this with a spot shadow or no spot shadow. What exactly is he trying to say here, huh? Is it a mysterious form of sign language for morons? Is he conveying some secret code to terrorists? Is he signaling the Los Angeles Angels to steal third base?
Before you scroll another second, smash that like button and subscribe. This is one clash you cannot afford to miss. Greg Gutfeld entered the studio wearing that unmistakable smirk, the silent warning that something explosive was coming. The room felt it immediately. Someone was getting exposed tonight. His target was Gavin Newsom, self-appointed king of progressive politics, equally famous for picture-perfect hair. As for grand, empty promises, Gutfeld never raised his voice. He didn't need to. Cold, calculated, and deadly precise. Every single word, a sharpened blade slicing straight through Newsom's polished facade.
Welcome to a new segment called Gavin's Hands. He keeps his hands in motion and his hair full of lotion. True, Gavin's views may be idiotic, but his hands moves, well, they're hypnotic. California go.
Gutfeld opened soft, almost playful, before tightening his grip. He cracked that Newsom doesn't walk into rooms. He orchestrates entrances like a slow-motion cologne commercial, glowing as though the universe personally adjusts his spotlight. Even on cloudy afternoons, Gutfeld laughed. That grin probably outshines California's notoriously broken power grid. And if politicians were products, Newsom would be overpriced luxury skincare, stunning packaging, breathtaking cost, and silently leaving behind problems nobody wants addressing. A razor-edged setup, perfectly warming the crowd before the real storm arrived.
So the riots aren't a protest against authoritarianism, they're a protest against order. Once you conflate order with authoritarianism, you get chaos and destruction. So if restoring order is evil, then the Dems are now the party of disorder. Turns out the only system they had was wokeism, and it rotted any basic principles the party had to begin with. Which is why, like Gavin himself, they're left looking at 2028's hopes.
But Gutfeld hadn't arrived simply to roast perfect hair. He pivoted sharply toward California itself, the glittering paradise Gavin passionately sold the world. Instead of a golden blueprint, Greg painted it as a luxury complex with broken elevators, overpriced coffee, and sidewalks drowning in abandoned scooters. Newsom's progress, he laughed, resembles less a functioning state and more pure carnival chaos like a wine bar getting robbed by someone in flip-flops while staff calmly offers kale and asks about his emotional well-being. Savage, hilarious, and painfully sharp.
Fed up with tent cities, the crime, the urban decay? No, he's not mad about that stuff. He's mad you noticed. It's like a criminal telling a jury he's sorry he robbed 25 banks when he's just sorry he got caught on the 26th. Because this isn't some spontaneous crisis. It's a man-made disaster like Chernobyl or Fox and Friends.
When homelessness entered the conversation, Gutfeld didn't mention it. He launched it like a precision missile into Newsom's record. He demolished his strategy, branding it a dangerous cocktail of empty slogans, rehearsed buzzwords, and budgeting so irresponsible it would ground a teenager permanently. Under his watch, San Francisco became a desperate scavenger hunt, citizens searching frantically for clean sidewalks or needle-free restrooms. Greg noted tourists now photograph crime scenes because that's the most authentic California souvenir remaining. The crowd roared, yet behind every laugh lived uncomfortable, undeniable truth.
Why? What difference does that make? Why shouldn't a restaurant/bakery be subject to the same laws as everybody else? Is the bakers union that powerful? If you cross them, will you wind up with the Pillsbury Doughboy's head in your bed? No one will say. But according to a new Bloomberg News report, Newsom pushed for the bread exemption to help a longtime campaign donor, billionaire Greg Flynn, who happens to own.
Then the economy surfaced, and Gutfeld showed absolutely zero mercy. He laughed, comparing Newsom bragging about businesses fleeing California to an arsonist proudly admiring the smoke billowing from his own deliberately set fire. Once the planet's fifth largest economy, California now stumbles through complete disorder, desperately competing with mid-tier European nations for the most catastrophically broken tax structure still breathing. Greg joked Gavin's entire economic master plan was probably sketched over a leisurely brunch avocado toast, glistening, mimosas sweating, dog-eared copy of Marx conveniently nearby. He methodically shredded the suffocating regulations silently strangling businesses, while somehow never once touching basic common sense. Then came his most devastating blow yet, surgically dissecting Newsom's COVID response with clinical precision, ridiculing destructive lockdowns that permanently robbed entire generations of children from their education, while Gavin sat comfortably, luxuriously dining at the exclusive French Laundry without a single moment of shame. Hypocrisy standing completely naked before the nation. A governor leisurely savoring Chardonnay and truffle oil while ordinary hardworking families helplessly watched every dream they'd spent lifetimes building quietly disintegrate into nothing. And Greg made absolutely certain every watching Americans simultaneously gasped and laughed at the breathtaking, infuriating double standard on full display.
It's like the wildfires. Gavin blames climate change when it was his corrupt bureaucracy. Since the Palisades fire, which destroyed 6,000 buildings, only 4 permits have been issued for rebuilding. Did climate change cause that? Hell no. So like the fires, Newsom let homelessness run wild. He allowed tens of billions of dollars to be swallowed up by a maze of consultants, nonprofits, and bureaucrats who created
Greg savaged Newsom's pandemic mandates, declaring they carried the stability of a rapidly melting popsicle. Messy, maddening, and impossible to predict from one hour to the next. Tuesday morning, jogging freely along the beach was perfectly acceptable. Tuesday evening, simply resting on a park bench had somehow transformed into a punishable criminal offense. It genuinely felt like Newsom was blindly spinning a giant color-coded wheel inside his office each morning, casually deciding whether children deserved fresh air or household pets required government-issued face coverings. Dare to question his logic and you were instantly branded a dangerous anti-science. Radical, far too intellectually limited to appreciate his towering brilliance. Then the recall arrived, yet rather than pausing for even a moment of honest Newsom returned visibly cockier, noticeably shinier, and even more hopelessly disconnected from the everyday Californians genuinely struggling beneath his policies. Greg then torched his catastrophic crime record, brutally mocking a twisted reality where convicted criminals receive warm sympathy like misunderstood neighborhood poets, and shoplifting has somehow evolved into a professionally organized competitive league sport. Newsom's master crime prevention solution, Greg laughed, probably consisted entirely of cheerfully designed motivational posters gently encouraging armed robbers to seriously consider pursuing rewarding careers in Silicon Valley tech internships. Instead,
our dumbest politicians are getting dumber. It's like a semi-truck full of dumb pills overturned, and Gavin Newsom leaped out of his limo and ate all of them up. And now he's ODing on dumb.
Gaia stores permanently shutter. Families desperately pack everything they own, and residents flee California in overwhelming waves. Newsom still stands proudly before cameras, declaring his state a radiant global model, as though the entire world is enthusiastically lining up for suffocating taxes, completely unchecked crime, and carefully government-regulated dish soap. Greg refused to stop there. He absolutely scorched the crumbling education system, arguing California classrooms abandoned genuine teaching years ago, replacing it entirely with slickly packaged indoctrination wrapped in colorful, trendy graphics. Parents desperately digging for honest answers must first battle through walls of impenetrable buzzwords, fashionable ideological theories, and school boards casually treating fundamental biology like a personalized choose-your-own-adventure story. He branded Newsom's administrators devoted graveyard caretakers, common sense buried permanently deep beneath suffocating mountains of diversity consultants and sensitivity workshops. Housing and energy absorbed brutal hits. Next, Greg savagely mocked Gavin's endless affordable housing pledges, comparing them to someone solemnly swearing every single Monday morning to finally begin dieting, yet never once following through on the promise. Rents keep suffocatingly climbing higher. Housing increasingly resembles fragile cardboard castles desperately balanced on crumbling fairy dust. Zoning laws remain so impossibly, infuriatingly tangled, they read like Kafka personally authored them during his most chaotic fever dream. And perhaps most cruelly of all, escaping. California now costs almost as much as the unbearable burden of simply surviving inside it.
After the Texas Governor Abbott ordered that parents of transitioning children should face criminal investigation, Newsom then tweeted this: "Trans kids and their families should be celebrated, not targeted by the state. They are heroes." And so to fearful families in Texas right now, California's door is always open to you. Yeah, and so is the side door on some pedophile's mini.
Still, Newsom keeps smiling, grinning shamelessly through every mounting controversy, brushing aside legitimate criticism like someone who has genuinely never survived a single uncomfortable question beyond a carefully rehearsed, meticulously staged interview. Greg compared him to a human screensaver, permanently sleek, endlessly animated, perpetually glowing, yet accomplishing absolutely nothing meaningful beneath the surface. "This isn't leadership," he said firmly. "This is influencer politics." Gavin doesn't govern, he curates moods, transforming every press conference into a personal photo shoot, casually dropping foggy, meaningless slogans while convincing dazzled audiences they're witnessing genuine greatness when it's really just a TED Talk with exceptional cheekbones. The mere idea of Newsom running for president got roasted with absolute zero mercy. Greg comparing it directly to promoting the head chef of a violently sinking cruise ship to command the entire United States Coast Guard behind the polished speeches, impeccably tailored designer suits, and perfectly Instagram-friendly policies stands a fundamentally hollow politician, running exclusively on manufactured style with absolutely nothing real underneath. The walking screensaver of exhausted progressive cliches, glossy, temporarily soothing, and breathtakingly, completely useless.
It is online.
Sure, Gavin, sure. He lived in a bus, but he definitely had cable. Gav talks like this maniac set his imaginary DVR on his imaginary TV on Fox News every night while wearing Brian Kilmeade pajamas, drinking his own urine out of a Fox Nation mug, and in his beautiful, dilapidated bus of a home.
Greg painted Newsom as a man so completely consumed by his own reflection, he'd entirely forgotten to glance outward at the genuine, devastating suffering surrounding him on every side. No shouting required. His composed, razor-edged delivery made every single word land with crushing weight. Audiences erupting in laughter one moment, shifting uncomfortably in their seats the very next. Beneath every perfectly crafted punchline lived a blade far too sharp and far too honest to casually dismiss or ignore. Newsom may proudly carry the governor's title, but California desperately, urgently deserves genuine leadership after enduring years of catastrophic, unaccountable decisions that have slowly hollowed the state from within. Then, just when the room genuinely believed Gutfeld had finally exhausted his ammunition, he struck again without warning, brutally ridiculing Gavin's increasingly bizarre obsession with lecturing thriving red states on proper governance. The suffocating irony filled every corner of the studio. Here proudly stood the self-appointed captain of the rapidly sinking SS California, comfortably perched inside his gleaming glass mansion atop Mount Delusion, fearlessly dispensing unsolicited advice to everyone else. A man demonstrably incapable of keeping basic lights functioning or a single neighborhood Walgreens open, boldly lecturing Texas on energy management and Florida on education policy, precisely like someone dramatically losing a race and then generously offering detailed sprinting tips from a stretcher. Now,
the conservative Supreme Court will overturn the current law that bans his state from removing out-of-control homeless encampments. Imagine that. Well, what did you expect, Gavin? That the sanctuary seekers were going to show up in Winnebagos? Once again, another example of a high-profile lib using his big mouth to write a check his ass can't cash.
Greg mocked Newsom's strange obsession with Florida's governor, branding it a deeply bizarre one-sided bromance spectacularly unraveling before a national audience. He painted Gavin as the type furiously scrolling through Florida headlines at midnight, frantically rage-posting between desperate oat milk sips while Florida quietly consistently expanded its booming economy and constructed real functioning, tangible infrastructure. Meanwhile, Newsom remained thoroughly occupied banning plastic forks and ceremonially renaming manholes in the noble name of inclusivity, hollow, performative gestures solving absolutely nothing for struggling Californians back home. Greg argued this wasn't remotely leadership. It was elaborate costume play designed exclusively for hopelessly out-of-touch elites who sincerely, genuinely confused TikTok applause with actual meaningful governance. Then he completely dismantled Gavin's carefully orchestrated national image tour, ruthlessly exposing it as nothing beyond extended White House audition rehearsals conducted inside a room, plastered wall-to-wall with mirrors. His campaign advertisement, Greg quipped with a smirk, should legally carry a mandatory warning label, heavily filtered outcomes, results absolutely not guaranteed. Because while real governors tirelessly fix crumbling roads and actively combat rising crime, Gavin strikes carefully rehearsed poses, delivers hollow memorized slogans, and films dramatic emotional confession with the manufactured intensity of a reality TV housewife desperately chasing her final fleeting season not now.
It's like a crap sandwich. The more bread you have, the less crap you gotta eat. But in Gavin Newsom's California, they mean it literally. California recently passed a law mandating a higher minimum wage for fast food restaurants, raising it from 16 to 20 bucks an hour. But it offers an odd exemption for chains that bake bread and sell it as a...
Even California's breathtaking natural beauty couldn't escape Gutfeld's merciless razor. He joked that the mountains, beaches, and ancient forests were secretly and desperately petitioning Idaho for immediate annexation, anything to finally flee the suffocating, endless mismanagement crushing them daily. Visitors arrive enthusiastically chasing golden sunshine, awkwardly linger through unexpected street protests, then quietly vanish beneath crushing, unavoidable taxes, a cycle so painfully predictable, it practically writes its own screenplay without any outside assistance. Greg compared California under Newsom to a massively overhyped sequel, absolutely nobody requested breathtaking trailer. Genuinely stunning scenery, yet an ending so irredeemably awful it permanently poisons every beautiful moment preceding it. And just when the exhausted room genuinely expected him to finally pause and breathe, Greg slowly leaned back, flashed that unmistakable signature sly grin, and casually shrugged, making it crystal clear he wasn't even remotely close to finish dismantling. Because when a politician's failures grow this magnificently spectacular, they practically gift-trap their own punchlines with a bow. All it demands is sharp wit, a live microphone, and a comfortable front-row seat to the gloriously unfolding chaos. The show remained absolutely defiantly, nowhere near its final curtain.